So this sikha shows the Rebbe's unique style, and I'm sure many of you might have already learned the sikha on other occasions.
Oh, for sure I did.
But this shows the Rebbe's unique style that nothing is like kacha. That when there's, even if it's a medrash, even if it's a gadata, even if it's like an explanation on the medrash by others, everything has to fit. You can't just say, well, it's a gadata, it's not really, every detail is exact. The Rebbe takes a medrash over here that the Malachim wanted to have the Torah by Shamayim. Then there's those that say about this medrash, why did the Malachim want to have it by Shamayim? And then the Rebbe wants to know, if so, according to that, what was Moshe Rabbeinu's answer? And he analyzed it, and it's like taking a deep sugya in Chassidus or a deep sugya in Halacha, and like breaking it down step by step. This doesn't fit, that doesn't fit, you can't say this, you can't say that. Yeah, and everything is totally analyzed, and then of course connected with Chassidus. Because Torah is a Torah Shlema. You can't go ahead and say like, it's just a little bit of nice drash, it's a little pshetel, it's whatever, it's a Purim Torah, whatever. Everything has to fit, everything has to have to do both according to Nigla, because it's going to be a very Nigla-dika halacha over here, the Bar Metzra we're going to talk about, and the halacha of, the idea of how it's brought down Chassidus. Okay. But again, this is talking about, there's a very famous sugya in Masechtas Shabbos, in Peches Amud Aleph, Peches Amud Beis. Over there, it's known as the sugya of Matan Torah. It talks about all different types of things that took place, nisim that took place. And one of the stories that it talks about over there is this famous story about the Malachim. They didn't even turn to Moshe Rabbeinu. They ignored him. They said to the Eibishter, Mali Yiludisha Beinenu. What's this guy doing here? Amr Lahan Lekabel Torah Ba. Amr Lefanav. Again, this is all a conversation between the Malachim and Hashem. Chamud Gnuza Shagnuza Chuluv, that, and the Malachim like enumerates 1900 something generations before even the world was created, the Torah was the special treasure hidden away. Atamavakish litn alabasar of dam. Ma enish kisis gedanu, like it says in Kapitel and Tillim and Kapitel Ches. Tzna hoyd chala Shamayim. The hoyd, the glory that's going on in the Torah. Leave it with us. Amar le'akadosh baruch hu Moshe hachzir le'en tshuva v'chol. And it says over there in the Gemara that Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'm scared. I'm scared of the Malachim. I don't want to start fighting with the Malachim. So the Eibusha said, don't worry. Hold on to my Kisei HaKavod and answer them. Amar Lefanav. And it seemed to be like Moshe Rabbeinu didn't even address the Malachim directly. He was Amar Lefanav, Rebbeinu Shalaylam. He didn't say Malachim. Torah shatan loisen li maksiv ba anoich Hashem Elokecha asher etzicha me'eretz Mitzrayim. Amar lahen. Now he says to the Malachim, leMitzrayim yiradatem, leParish tabadatem, Torah lamatei lachem. And then he's going to go through every one of the Aseres HaDibros. Shuv maksiv ba lo yil chalakim acherim. So he says, Bein amim atem shruyim you the malachim she'oivdim by the zara. So therefore, why would you even think about telling you this? Val derech zeh heishiv Moshe lemalachim al Yetzer Hadibros. When it came to Shabbos, he told them klumat Moshe malacha. When it came to swearing falsely, masa matan yesh benechem. When it came to the mitzvah of kibbud aveim, aveim yesh lachem. When it came to the idea of loy sirtzach and loy signov and so on, Kinne yesh benechem, Yetzer Hara yesh benechem. Miyad hoidu loy lakadosh baruch hu. The Malachim told Hashem, you're right. It doesn't belong to us. That's the Gemara. The Mefarshim explain what was going on in the Malachim's minds. Didn't the Malachim ask for Torah? Obviously, they knew what was going on in the Torah. So, what was their legal standing?
How was the Torah if it was there for 1900 generations before? Like I'm saying, it's all the future that will happen.
Right. So what are you asking?
So the future was written
They're,
before.
as far as in the Oil Misal Yoinim, sure. The problem is they ask questions about what happened with the parts of Torah when it came down here, what with future events, like the stories of the Meraglim and things like that. So that there's different explanations of what was that. But in Shamayim, why not? Shamayim, they can write what's going to happen in the future. They can know what's going to happen in the future. Especially since the Torah, the way it's in Shamayim, speaks all the Inyan Beruchnis. So for example, when Chachmei Law speaks about Avram and Sarah, it speaks about Neshama, Avram shows on the Neshama, and the Sarah shows on the Guf, and Kol Shatar Misar Shma B'Koilam means the Neshama has to follow the Guf Inyan because of Dirah Tachton and so on. So they're talking in Ruchnis. So it's not a problem to speak about all these things. Then later, Nishtal Shalom Ahen, like it says in Tanya, it came down till eventually, when it came down into our world, it came into physical Mitzrayim, a physical Avram and Sarah, and so on. But the way it was in Shamayim, it was all Ruchnius anyway, which is beyond time. So the Isa B'Sfarim, she said Tanasim Shalom Alachim, Tanah Chala Shamayim. They didn't just say, why are you giving it to Moshe Rabbeinu? Why are you giving it to the Yidden? The question was, Ala Shamayim. Give it to the heavens. Give it to us. What's Torah have to do with you? Al Pi Alacha Hu Dinah de Bar Metzra. Din hu she'im adam macher sadar l'chaverei yesh chus lebar metzra. Bar metzra means the person that's on the border. L'shchenoi lahoitzis hasada miyad alakech. Let's say I have a property here and you have a property over here. Now I want to sell my field and I want to sell it to anybody. It says the person over here, the next door neighbor, has first rights to buy my property. That's called Dinah de Bar Metzra. And even if I already sold it, he could take it away from the Lekech. Obviously, he'll have to pay him for it, but he could still force him to sell it. Lefi shezohi toiva avor Bar Metzra sheyiu sadoisav smuchas zulazu. To have properties, especially a field, when you have to make a field grow, so it's a lot easier to plant one field next to each other than if you have one field here and one field over there. You got to go schlepping your seeds and your things and your harvest. Like this, you have it next to each other. You have one long field, one big field. You could plant easier. V'atoyra amra v'sisa hayosher v'atoy b'einei Hashem. This is a very famous idea. There's a lot of things that say in Torah without the Torah being explicit. Certain things says openly in the Torah, do this, don't do that. Then there are certain things that are like very general. Vasisa hayosher v'atoiv b'einei Hashem. What is this idea of vasisa hayosher v'atoiv? There are things that Torah doesn't tell you to do, but if you see that it's something that's good and something that's straight, something that's beneficial for people, you should make sure to do it. This the Chazal learned out from this pasuk vasisa hayosher v'atoiv, that if you see that it's beneficial for a neighbor to buy your field rather than selling the field to someone else, so then the neighbor has first rights. V'zois hoysataynas hamalachim kivim sha'atoyre hi gnuza hain she nimtzes b'mareh, meaning b'shamayim. V'afheim the malachim nimtzorim b'shamayim yesh b'yadam schus midin bar metzra lekabel sa'toyra v'lechein tna hoyt chala shamayim. Now here it might touch a little bit on what you were saying before, Yaakov. Val piza mevur eich biksha malachim lekabel sa'toyra l'shusam. How could it be? Open up a Torah. What does it say? Achar shekvar nemra ba tzaves b'nei Yisrael, daber al b'nei Yisrael v'kiyotzim b'zeh. What are they going to do with all of those psukim? So the answer is as follows: Ki adin bebar metzra hu shegam la'achar hamechira mesalkin es alekech min asada v'noistim oisol bar metzra. And in the footnote he says, and that's really the main din of the Bar Metzra, is really not on the seller, but it's on the buyer. The buyer has a chiyuv to give up the field to a neighboring person if he wants to buy the field. So the same thing over here, even though we could say the Torah was already sold to the Yidden, because it says in the Torah, Daber el b'nei Yisrael, Tzaves b'nei Yisrael, doesn't make a difference. Even after it was sold, you still have the din of Bar Metzra. It has to go, even the buyer has to go and sell it back to the person that's the neighbor. So that's what Malachim were saying. Okay, fine. So the Malachim had a legal, halachically binding thing, and we know that the Torah is legally binding Lamaila as it is down here below. Magid Varav Yankov Chukum Mishpat Yisrael. What we do, he himself does. So therefore, what was going to be with the Taina of the Malachim? They had a good Taina, didn't the Bar Metzra? Ubetchias Taina of Malachim Matzinu b'mefarshim kama terutz. Umehem. Aleph. Dinner the Bar Metzra Shayich Rak Bekarka V'loy B'metaltali V'atoyda in a Karka. Later on, he's going to explain a little bit more that the purpose of Dinner the Bar Metzra should be easy, right? You go from one field to the other field. You can't go ahead and buy a field over there and then move it to your place. But when it comes to movable property, so even if it's somewhere else, once you get it, you put it together with your other movable property. It's not an issue. But a field or a house or whatever, you can't move it together, you can't connect it. So therefore, over there is applicable din of the Bar Metzra. If it's movable property, metaltlin, the din of the Bar Metzra doesn't apply.
So about a set, if it's a certain set, like they sell 3 pictures part of a set that they're worth more together. Is there the same din as the...
That's an interesting question. There is something later on in the Sikha that I think might touch on this point. If we say that by metaltal and l'chatchila the whole din of Bar Metzra never applied, or it's because of a technical reason by metaltal and it doesn't apply, and we'll see where that technical reason doesn't apply, so then it might apply by Torah as well. It's an interesting question.
The Rebbe says in comment 7 in 11.
Yes.
That the reason Hashem, first of all, the whole Bar Metzra is only if it's in the same price, right? At the same price.
We'll talk about that also. That he says it in 11.
No, in 11 it just says that the main mitzvah is on the Lekech.
On the Lekech. That's why we said that even though it said Daber al Bnei Yisrael, Tzavat Bnei Yisrael. So now he says also right. That's why it was talking Moshe Rabbeinu. Why didn't the Eibishter answer? Because the problem was with Moshe. Moshe represented the Yidden. So therefore he was the buyer. So he had to defend his purchase. It wasn't the Eibishter's job to defend the purchase. Another thing, top of the second column, Beis, Dinah de Bar Metzra hu rak b'mechira v'loy b'matana. V'atoyra nitna b'matana. This is all halacha brought down in the Gemara, in Rambam, in Shulchan Aruch. These different conditions, these are halachic conditions in the laws of Bar Metzra. Gimel, another case where Bar Metzra doesn't apply, when it's a relative. If I sell something to my child, or my brother, or my uncle, or whatever, a relative has first rights even over the Bar Metzra. B'nai Yisrael, him kroivim lakadosh baruch hu k'may shenemar migoy god lasher lo yelakim kroivim elav ulamaylam ezeh b'nai Yisrael him banim lamakim val kroivim val achse kama banim lo yichal din of the Bar Metzra. Dalit, another idea is al Moshe Rabbeinu namar shahaya ish ha'elakim. So what does it mean Moshe Rabbeinu was ish ha'elakim? That's a very interesting combination. Ish means a human being. Elakim means Hashem. Or could go on Malachim also. So the Medrash says, right, Moshe Rabbeinu was a combination of both. Umevur b'Medrash, mechetzia lamata ish, mechetzia lamayla elakim. So if so, the Malachim were saying, the Torah is ours because we're close to it. Moshe Rabbeinu is also close to it. Half of him is up there. V'im kein aragam Moshe Rabbeinu, haya bar metzra l'Torah sheba Shamayim. Hey, ala posik vayamed ha'am al Moshe min haboker v'ad ha'erev, amru Chazal, she Moshe Rabbeinu hayadon din emes la'amitai. So when a person does that, the Chazal say, v'ki'ilu nasa shutaf la'kadosh baruch hu b'maisa b'reishis, someone that judges Yid thoroughly and truthfully, the way a judge is supposed to judge, he's considered, the Chazal learn out from Psukim, that he's considered like a partner of the Eibishter in creation. A partner also takes precedence over Din Bar Metzra. If I have a partnership with someone, and then I want to sell him my field, So he trumps a Bar Metzra. He is stronger than a Bar Metzra.
Why so many reasons?
No, they're just different
Like
Mefarshim come up with different reasons.
The first one already,
I guess different Mefarshim, each one came up with a different explanation. Why? But soon we'll see that Rebbe is going to knock out all these reasons. He's going to say all these don't make any sense based on what he answered. V'adinhu so first of all, the Rebbe says these last two terutzim, either Moshe Rabbeinu was also a Bar Metzra, or Moshe Rabbeinu was a shutef. So he says, L'chura yesh lahakshas al shnei terutzim achroinim haloi Moshe kibel Torah misinai loy rak la'atzmai ella l'kol Yisrael. So therefore, true, he was half of the Eibishter, or he was a shutef in Ma'aseh Bereishis. But the Torah was not just given to Moshe Rabbeinu. It wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu's personal Torah. It was to the whole Klal Yisrael. What about them? They're not a Bar Metzra. They're not a shutef, and they're not a Bar Metzra because they are part of the Eibishter. V'tirtzim mefarshim aleph kol b'nei Yisrael hem b'nei Metzra l'Torah sharei b'nei shamas Yisrael gezuros mitachas kisei hakavod. They were chiseled out, they were chopped out, they were cut out from under. So they're like Moshe Rabbeinu, also a Bar Metzra. Beis, b'shas matan Torah hayu kol Yisrael shutvim lakadosh baruch hu. How come? For a different reason. Shekein kvar kiblu mitzvah Shabbos b'mora koydem matan Torah, it says. V'am razal kol hamispal b'erev Shabbos v'omer v'yichulu v'chulu ki ilu nasa shutav lakadosh baruch hu ma'aseh bereishis. So since all Yidden accepted Shabbos already in Mara, since they accepted Shabbos in Mara, therefore they were already saying Vayichulu. They were saying Vayichulu, so they became a shutef. They became a shutef. That's not Chal, the din of the Bar Metzra. But, okay, this is not the major problem. The major problem is, did Moshe Rabbeinu answer any of these answers? We came up over here with 5 different answers. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't talk anything about these answers. All he said was, Yetzer Hara yesh b'neichem, Mitzrayim yiraltem. That's all he said. What does this have to do with these 5 different explanations of why the din of Bar Metzra doesn't apply, or why the din of Bar Metzra doesn't apply by the Malachim? They're saying one thing, and the Gemara is saying something different. They're giving one answer of why the Malachim's Taina was wrong, and Moshe Rabbeinu said something completely different. Gim, Af echad mehem einay musker b'mayne Moshe Rabbeinu atzmoi l'malachim. And not only that, the Rebbe is going to add that the last 3 are just the opposite of what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying. Toichen shloishes hatirutzim ha'achroinim hu l'choyre ha'hepech matayas Moshe Rabbeinu. The teretz number 3 is we are bonim l'makim. We're children to the Eibishter. We're kroivim to the Eibishter. Since we are children and kroivim to the Eibishter, so therefore the din of the Bar Metzra doesn't apply. Or another reason is because we are connected to the Eibishter, we are a godly essence of the Eibishter. Or because of shutfus with the Eibishter. So all of this is showing how high we are, right? We are so high. We are a shutf to the Eibishter. We are children of the Eibishter. It's all about how high we are. What did Moshe Rabbeinu say? He said how low we are. We have Yetzer Hara, we're living around Goyim, we were in Mitzrayim. It's just the opposite of these last 3 terutzim. V'adrabah, doichen shloishes terutzim achroinim l'chora ha'hepech min tayis Moshe Rabbeinu. B'terutzim eilu mudgish ad kama Moshe v'cholech m'Yisrael karev la'kadosh baruch hu. He's shaykh l'Shamayim, v'shutav la'kadosh baruch hu. V'ilu had gosha b'gemara, what Moshe Rabbeinu told the malachim, he l'hepech. Shat Torah kshura liyirid Mitzrayim v'cholu. Hainu shamayna b'gemara mevate u'madgish es hagashmi shalakeach. Ad lekina Yetzer Hara v'cholu. So again, what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying in answer has nothing to do with what all these Mefarshim are answering. Then the Rebbe adds to that another problem. Dalit, gam yesh lahakshus al shnei terutzim harishonim, Noise of al kusha close enough. So the Rebbe first asked questions on the last two terutzim, answered them, and then he said that in general, the last three terutzim don't fit in at all with the whole approach of Moshe Rabbeinu, what he said to the Malachim. And now he's going to go back to the first two terutzim. Teretz number one was about metaltalin, that by movable property, the din of the Bar Metzra doesn't apply. But Teretz harishon hadum metaltalin less the din of the Bar Metzra, hareze meshum shetam din of the Bar Metzra, sheyiu sadoisus muchas zulazu ein shayach b'metaltalin. Why? Like we mentioned before, ki metaltalin yachol adam likneis b'makom acher ulaviyai b'mekaymayim. But is that an answer for Torah? Can you purchase Torah anywhere else? This is like similar to what you were saying about a set. I don't know in halacha what it says about a set. I'd have to ask a shayla from a rav in the Chosh Mishpat. But Torah for sure is something you can't go get from somewhere else. The only place you can get Torah is whether it's metaltalin or whether it's karka, whether it's movable or real estate. It's not going to help. Torah ein makim l'tamzeh. Then the second teretz was that it's a matana. When it comes to a gift, if I give you a gift, my field, so the person cannot say, I am next to the field, I want to take it from you. It only applies if I sell to you the field. If it was a gift to someone, by gift it doesn't apply. Torah is a matana. So he says, but that's not the only thing that Torah is. Torah has in it other aspects as well. Base, b'teretz hasheni min agel Torah matzinu shalosh lashonos. Aleph Yerusha k'dichsiv Torah tziva lanu Moshe Mayrasha. It's a Yerusha. Base mechira k'mayim razal Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael macharti lochem terasi. Gimel matana. K'mayim razal shalosh matanas toivus nas HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael chulu. One of them is Torah. U'kenusach hatfilas man matan Torah seinu. We're going to say this throughout the whole Yom Tov. The sholish l'shoynes elum moiris al shloishes haifanim shebeshaychas ha-Torah l'bnei Yisrael k'mevur b'kam mekaymis. Many Amarich Chassidus explain about our relationship with the Torah, that we have it in the way of a Yerusha, that we have it in the way of a purchase, and that we have it in the way of a matana, and each one has something that the other one doesn't have, and our connection to the Torah is in all three ways. Im kein kiven sheyesh b'Torah gam geder shel mecher, hari gam ba shayach din the Bar Metzra, because you have a case of mechira. There's an aspect of Torah which is being sold. So that aspect of Torah which is being sold, the Malachim had a good time. The Malachim could say that we get first chance to it. Teretz noisav hamasim l'choyra l'lashon ha'gemara. Here he's going to bring, we brought 5 terutzim. He's going to bring now a 6th teretz. And he say this fits in a little bit more with what Malachim, what Moshe Rabbeinu answered the Malachim. Matzinu b'hagdim bira mafarshim shatainas ha-Malachim hoisa al chelik hasoid shebetoira. The Malachim were not asking for the Torah like we learned it in Pshat down here. They knew it had no shaykhs to them. The way Torah came down here into this world and talks about an ox goring a cow or whatever, or goring a donkey, or machlif para b'chamoy, or something like that, this has nothing to do with them. Dal d'rishayis l'Shabbos has nothing to do with them. But they were saying there's a certain part of Torah that has to do with us. The Soid, the Kabbalah, the Primus HaTorah, Torah, the way it's learned in Ruchnius, that's what they wanted to have. That's what they were coming with a taina with. But the answer is, let's say, if it's not just this field that I sold everything. It was an estate sale. I sold all my property. And I sold it to one person. So someone that's living next to a certain field can't say, that field you can't sell to him because I'm a neighbor and I want to take it. No, it's a package deal. You're selling an entire package deal. It's a whole estate sale that you're selling to one person, so everything goes to that person, and the Bar Metzra can't go ahead and pick out that particular property and say, that's next to me. So this is the same thing. The Malachim want to pick out one part of the Torah and say, we want to have the Chelik HaSoid of the Torah. So the Eibishter answered them, or Moshe Rabbeinu answered them, it's a package deal. The Eibishter gave them all away. He gave away the entire Torah. So the Soid is included with it. It's a package deal. You can't go ahead and take just the Soid. V'din noisef matzinu, she'im hoya matzman, tzarich es ha-karka rak la'arvocha. This person, that's my neighbor, he just needs it not because he has to have this field, but he wants to invest, he wants to have greater properties and so on. It's for comfort. It's not a necessity. The Lekeach really needs it. It's a difficult situation for him monetarily, and he needs to have a field to be able to grow, whatever it is. So then, we don't apply the din of the Bar Metzra. You remember, where do we learn out the din of the Bar Metzra from? We learn it out because it says, Vasisa hayosher v'atoiv, because we're supposed to do what is right and nice and good. If this person only needs it for comfort, the Bar Metzra, and the Lekeach purchased it because he needs to survive off of it, so it's not being nice and good to give it to the guy that only needs it for comfort. So it says, so loy chal din of the Bar Metzra, v'cheinu benidin de dan, hatzoidich shal Yisrael b'toiro b'dugmas dechikale shaita. He has a difficult situation. Why? Ki ha-toiro hi chayusi shal Yehudi, heim chayenu. Vayidei ha-toiro b'yodil and es Yetzer Hara. K'mayim razal barosi Yetzer Hara barosloi toiro tavli. Mashe enkin rotzen ha-malachim b'chelik ha-soit shebetoiro be'ein lehem Yetzer Hara harei al derech la'arvocha. So the Rebbe says, Avol gam al tirutzim eile yesh lahakshois haloi mayne Moshe Rabbeinu shel malachim ein shayches l'chelik hapshat v'asir shebetoiro. What did he tell him? Let's go into the details. Mitzrayim yiratem, klum atem moisim malacha. So why on Shabbos are you going to stop doing malacha? There's no malacha. Masa matan doesn't apply. Aveim doesn't apply. Yetzer Hara yesh menechem. All it is, lo haya chiddush avuram. Again, malachim knew all it is. Ha-malachim yodu zois mekoydem v'lechem bikshum l'chatchila rak es ha-chelik ha-soit shebetoiro. So if you're telling me that they asked for the chelik ha-soit, so what was Moshe Rabbeinu's answer to them? If that's how you're explaining that they were asking for the Torah because the din the Bar Metzra, because they wanted the chelik ha-soit, so they're talking on two different wavelengths. Moshe Rabbeinu was talking about the chelik ha-pshat, but they never asked for the chelik ha-pshat. They asked for the chelik ha-soit. So what's it help by telling them, did you go down to Mitzrayim? You're right. That's not the part of Torah that we were interested in. We're interested in the spiritual idea of Torah. What's the response? Again, the question, the most powerful question that we asked earlier, that the Rebbe asked before, is all of these answers of the Mefarshim is not hinted at all in what Moshe Rabbeinu said. So when we say, you know why we can't go ahead and give the Malachim the Torah, it's because Kihem Chayenu, because it's Archayis, and you just want it for comfort. Where is it showing the answer of Moshe Rabbeinu? It's not reflected in the answer of Moshe Rabbeinu.
Both of them are not...
exactly, both
but
of them.
I'm saying not only Moshe's answer, but also the Tanat HaMalachim Medina de Bar Metzra.
No.
This is also not mentioned.
All the Malachim says, Tnoi Hoyt Chal Shamayim. It doesn't say why. So for that, Mefarshim explain, because it didn't the Bar Metzra. But what Moshe Rabbeinu answers is going contrary to the whole idea of Din of the Bar Metzra. It has nothing to do with the Din of the Bar Metzra. It's none of the 5, 6, 7 tirutzim that we're already having about why Din of the Bar Metzra doesn't apply. I think we already have like 7 different explanations why Din of the Bar Metzra doesn't apply. None of them have anything to do with what Moshe Rabbeinu said. The Malachim we don't know what they said. All it says, Noit Chal Shamayim. So the Mefarshim are learning, you know why they said it? Because Din of the Bar Metzra. It's not a stira to what they're saying. But if you look at what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, and you look at the 7 different explanations of why Din of the Metzra doesn't apply, It's not anywhere in the words of Moshe Rabbeinu. So he says, Kiloima, in the brackets, bottom of 32, you could say like this, the Tchikale Shaita, what's the difficulty? You didn't need it to be able to deal with the Yetzer Hara, like we said. Who has B'Hamatzav Shel Yetzer Hara Yesh B'Nechem. True, it explains the state and situation. Is that you have a Yetzer Hara between you? No, you didn't have a Yetzer Hara between them. But that's not the answer that Moshe Rabbeinu was telling them. Moshe Rabbeinu is just saying that the whole Torah doesn't apply. Ava b'loshen shuvas Moshe Rabbeinu v'arichs b'zeh klum at the Moshe Malacha Masa Matan Ava im yeshachem mashma shemayim Moshe Malachim hu loy kol kach mitzad melchemes hayetzer that Yidden need the Torah t'chikale shaita because they need to fight the Yetzer Hara. El mitzad klolos inyan shachel kapshat v'asir shebetoyr l'shayach v'malachim, and therefore it doesn't fit in with any of the answers that we said. Why did it? Bar Metzra doesn't apply. So now the Rebbe is going to explain, according to the classic idea that the Rebbe always emphasizes about Matan Torah and Shavuos, it's about Dirah B'Tachtonim Davke, it's about this world. With that concept, it's like you go through the Shavuos Sichos, it's like one line going through every Shavuos Sich, I think, is all about Dirah B'Tachtonim, Tachtonim Yadl Yonim, and Yonim Yadl Tachtonim, and all this type of topics is going through like 15, 20 different sikhs where the Rebbe has all different types of questions on many different things, and it all boils down to this idea. I think Rabbi Shachat once did this. He went to the Chassidish Koil in Los Angeles, and they gave him like I think a limited amount. I think it wasn't the Chassidish Koil. It could be it was somewhere other place on Talucha. He went to speak, and he like bombarded them with every question the Rebbe has on the whole sugya of Matan Torah and Shavuos or whatever. And then he looked at the clock and he said, my time is up. Do you want me to stop or you want me to answer? He said, no, we want to hear the answer. And he everything connected all together with the gang that the Rebbe with Dirah B'Tachtonim. Anyway, let's see it inside. V'abir b'zeh. Tachsa Torah hi sha'yada mismalas kavonas habriyah. So the Rebbe says a very important thing about the word Dirah. I have a pet peeve. I don't like the way people translate Dirah in English. They translate Hashem desire to have a dwelling place in this world. I think I might have mentioned this before. What's a dwelling place? It sounds like a chadka in the woods. What's a dwelling place? Dirah means, there's like in halacha, there's a concept of mezuzah, there's chayvus hadar. The obligation of mezuzah is not on the owner of the house, or if the house is empty, but the obligation of mezuzah, it's the chayv of the person that's living there. There's a difference between a dirah and a bayis. A bayis means a house. A dirah means a home. When it says the Eibishter wanted to have a dirah le'yizbarach tachtonim, he wanted to be at home in this world. He didn't just want a bayis. He wanted to feel at home. And feeling at home means you're there with your whole ispashtus. You're there without any limitations. That's a person, the way he acts at home is not the way he acts anywhere else. Because there's nothing like holding it back. There's no constrictions on him. This is his home. And what's the instrument? How does that take place? It says about the Torah. So Torah is the way how the Eibishter has a Dirah B'Tachtonim. Here is a whole new teretz. We had like 7, 8 terutzim. The Rebbe gives a new teretz over here. Hadinhu, another halacha about dinner the Bar Metzra. She'im ha-Bar Metzra roitze bekarka l'tzoyrech zriyah. He wants to grow fruit. He wants to grow wheat, barley, whatever. V'alekeach roitze bekarka l'binyan bayis. He wants to build a house. Nitenes hasada l'lekeach lefi she'yishuv adif. Yishuv, being settled. Ules bam shum din de Bar Metzra. Val derech ze binyaneinu. Dirah b'Tachtonim is considered being settled. The Eibishter wanted to live here. He wants a home over here. Kiven shetach satoira he lasses lo yisbarach Dirah bayis b'Tachtonim. Sara tainas hamalachim etzad dinah de Bar Metzra. What does it have to do with all of that Moshe Rabbeinu said? Klum Mitzrayim yiratem, masamata yesh lechem, aveim yesh lechem. Says that expresses it. V'zeh hayamayna Moshe Rabbeinu leMitzrayim yiratem, klum ata Moshe melachem, masamaten yesh menechem v'cholu. HaTorah shayeches lebnei Yisrael kefi shenitna ba'oifen sheyosekes b'yishuvay shel oilam. Oilam haza hagashmi. Bein amim, you're living, like it said over there, are you living amongst the nations? Kina yesh, dafke over here, dafke ki ha-Torah nitnam nas lasas lo yizbarach Dirah b'Tachtonim. So therefore the important part is what's going on down here in this physical world. That's why it's a Dirah. Here in this world, the Eibishter want to have a Dirah, this particular place. So now he goes on to say like this: Masha Torah loy nitn l'malachim eina mishum shel yoinim einon niskakim lamshachas ha'atzim shaydei Torah. Sure, the malachim could use the revelation of Hashem's etzem over there, just like we like to have Hashem's etzem over there. Shekein gam ba'ilmus al yoinim etzad atzmam me'ira rak ha'ora melakus yizbarach va'ilmus eluhem yiridam ha'irpanu yizbarach. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. So really, the Malachim would love to have Hashem's essence over there, because all they have is only a ray, is only a reflection, is only a limited revelation of Hashem. So of course they would love to have the Eibishter's essence. They can't bring it down because they don't have the Tachtonim aspect. Hashem wanted to have a home in Tachtonim, so we need to deal with Tachtonim. Malachim don't deal with Tachtonim, so they can't connect with Hashem's essence. And not just down here below, but what we do down here below causes also Hamshach of Hashem's essence, also Gambel Yoinim. Bechol Seder Ishtalshlos. How does that happen? Okay, do a mashla ze amnas laharim binyan. I de klei hagba nikra lever min manof. Really, a jack, a lever like you use to pick up a car to change a tire. Zarech la nichas akli tachas chalokim atachtoinim sheboy davke. Aval im yugba binyan me'emtzitz brought down Marich Sidis loyhoya magbi atachtoinim. So therefore, for the malachim to be raised up, for the Olmas al Yoinim to be raised up and experience atzmos, it's necessary to start from down here below. Lachein yesh hechrech sha'atoyda tinosen lamata davke ba'olam haza Tachton chulum she'ein Tachton lamata emenu ki ha'ideiza mis'ala kol binyan seder eishtal shlos v'zeu gam toichen ad goshes Moshe Rabbeinu b'shuvosai kini yesh b'neichem Yetzer Hara yesh b'neichem levate ulahadgish as hiyoisei shala olam hazah Tachton b'madrege. It's the lowest in level. She'ein Tachton lamata menu binyan hester oire yizbarach achu malik klippus. And that's where Hashem wanted to have a Dirah. So that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was emphasizing. Give a look how low our world is. There is nations that serve Avodah Zarah. There is Kina. There's all these different things. And this is where Hashem wanted to have a Dirah. That was what Moshe Rabbeinu was emphasizing to the Malachim. Whereas the Malachim don't have that, so they don't have the mile of the Tachton. They don't have the mile of the Tachton, so they can't claim to want to have Atzmos become revealed. Because Atzmos wants to be down here in this physical world. But then the Rebbe adds another point. Move on. Hein emes shekdei lasli yisbarach Dirah b'Tachtonim. Tzrich ha-Torah liyas lamata. Aval ein ze mesalik es tainas malachim mitzadin de Bar Metzra. Soif hein b'nei Metzra. V'retzoinam lasses Dirah b'ayis akalponim b'al yoinim. Fine, here is the Tachtonim, but they want a Dirah in El Yoinim. We're Bar Metzra. We want to have a home in El Yoinim. For the Eibishter should be a home in El Yoinim. Ubehechrech loiman. She'inyan hadirah lo yizbarach hamshachas ha'atzmas eina yochel le'yosas klal afilu b'el yoinim ha'idei avodas ha'malachim. The Malachim cannot do it. You're saying you want to have Hashem's essence to come down over there. You want a Dirah, but it should be an Olmas al Yoinim. But you wouldn't be able to do it. By getting the Torah, you wouldn't accomplish anything that you want to do. You wouldn't be able to make a Dirah for the Eibishter, even in Alyonim. Dafkai, the avoidus hat Tachtonim, Nasam, Shachsatz, Mos Yisbarach, Beseder Shtalshus, an entire Seder Shtalshus, beginning from down here, but in all the worlds as well. Why is it? Why can we do something that even the Malachim cannot do? Bir v'tamadavar koyach atzmus shebetoyre misgalo bolde poyol rak ba'avoidus haneshama b'yoysa nesuna b'meitzarim v'gvulim shalom haza. And this is also hinted in the words klum leMitzrayim yeradatam. Mitzrayim from the word meitzarim, constraints, boundaries. Haneshama yeredes la'olam mali klippis v'sitra achre shem neged havaya mamish u'ba'olam Tachton zehi nilchemes b'Yetzer Hara. By Kasas Kol Alamas Vestadim, Umapeches Oisam Chashoichel and Hoira. They don't have, the Malachim don't have an opportunity to turn darkness into light. And it's only when we turn over darkness into light that Hashem's essence becomes revealed. Therefore, they would never have Hashem's essence there. They would never have a Dirah Lo Yisbarach. Pa'ula zu iskafi v'shabcha shel klippes shem neged avaya mamish l'in shel kedusha hi inyan shel ischachus. Shall afichas yesh v'yeshes la'ayim. That is a big chiddush. That's something unbelievable. V'koyach ha'yischachus u'batzmusa yizbarach shehu levade b'koyche v'yicholter livre v'lachadish yesh ma'ayin. The Eibishter's ischachus is that he makes a yesh into an ayin. Our ischachus is we turn the yesh back into an ayin. V'hu anois l'koyach lasses mi yesh ayin. So only here, where there's the negative, where does the kinna, where does the Yetzer Hara, where does the Mitzrayim, so then we are connecting to Hashem's essence that has the power of chiddush. Because we are doing a chiddush of turning darkness into light, of turning the yesh into ayin, just like he made a chiddush to turn the ayin into yesh. But the malachim don't have an opportunity to turn yesh into ayin. Klum. Kine yesh menechem. Klum Yetzer Hara yesh menechem. Klum Mitzrayim yeradatam. There's no yesh to turn into ayin. So they have no chiddush. So they're not connected with the Eibishter's chiddush of the creation of the world. So therefore, whatever they will do with Torah, they'll never bring down atzmus anyway. And therefore, they won't have the idea of Dirah. And Dirah is the reason why that we are more powerful than a Bar Metzra. The gam mailazu shel koyach ha'ischachus merumezes b'tshuvas Moshe Rabbeinu b'tanosoi ave em yesh lachem. All the things we just now explained about how low the world is and that's a Dirah b'tachtonim really is more reflected in the things like l'mitzrayim yeratem, kinna yesh b'neichem, and Yetzer Hara yesh b'neichem. But what about Aveim? Okay, Aveim doesn't really express seemingly how low we are. So he says, actually, it expresses a different thing. It expresses the hischachus. Yadua she'inyan ha'yelado me'ein ha'hischachus ma'ayin liyesh. V'lechein hu nasa rak be'koyach ein sof. V'koyach zeh einen nimtza b'malachim. It's not because they are holier than us, that because of that they don't have Aveim. Malachim cannot create life. Only people can create life. Why? Because they don't have the koyach ha'atzmus. We have the power of the Ein Sof. We have the power of Atzmus. That's why we can create. So the Aveim shows the fact that Aveim yesh b'chem shows again how they're missing the power of Atzmus. We dafka have the power of Atzmus, and therefore we can make a Dirah for Hashem, which the Malachim cannot make. V'zu ha'is tainus Moshe Rabbeinu shekoyach ha'yischachus zed nimtza b'neshamas me'Yisrael lamata she'ayidei avodasim b'olam hazeh harei hem moilidim. Now he's going to talk about not just giving birth physically, but everything that they're doing is in the way of Hailada, Yischachus, a new thing, just like bring a new life into this world. Noitlim dvarim tachtoinim v'oisim oisam v'aydezes kol seder ishtalshus l'dirah l'atzmusim husi yizbarach. That is the ultimate Hailada. That is the chiddush that's only through atzmus, and that's why atzmus can only have a dirah down here. He can't have a dirah above. And that's why Dirah the Bar Metzra doesn't apply, because we are using it for a Dirah and they are not using it. It's not even possible for them to use it as a Dirah.
Go ahead.